Hello and welcome to another track of our testing summit here today, live from Marrakesh. With me now is Tilo Linz, the first ISTQB president and the founder of the Imbus AG in Germany. Welcome, Tilo.
Yes, hello, Werner. Thank you for having introduced me for this interview.
Very, very nice that you are here with us today. You are unfortunately not in Marrakesh, so best regards to Germany. I hope all is good over there.
Yes.
Okay. So we wanted to do a little interview to discuss a little bit about what happened over the last 20 years in ISTQB and also to look a little bit in the future together. So Tilo, you've been the first president. How do you see the testing developing over the last 20 years?
Well, it was a long time ago, about 20 years ago from now. And of course, IT, the world at all, and especially driven by IT, has changed a lot. So 20 years ago, the dependence on functioning software was not quite as great as it is today. For example, of course, development of medical devices such as computer tomographs or train systems or something like that has always in these years already been depending on software quality, but the situation was not as today when surfing in the internet via smartphone or via tablet did not exist in these days, and accordingly this dependence we have today on software was in everyday's life was not to existing to this extent in the 90s from the last from the 1990s, and so the situation, of course, has dramatically changed.
And the testing itself as well. So, did you test differently 20 years ago?
I would not say that we are testing differently. I would say we have much more systems and much more difficult systems, much greater and larger systems which we have to test. And if you are doing your job as software tester, you are applying more or less the same, or you are following the same methods and techniques as which was known in the years when the ISTQB was founded, but the speed and the level of and the amount of testing has dramatically increased.
But in the beginning, it was a lot of waterfall, right? And then Agile came. So did you see a lot of changes coming with Agile into the testing?
Well, from my perspective, of course, the situations how testers and developers and software development teams have worked and are working at all has, of course, changed. In the days when ISTQB has been founded, waterfall-like models were dominant. That's true. And of course, the situation has been the way that a lot of teams in these days had followed the approach that the programmers tried to test their own programs on their own if they did testing at all, and that of course was not so very successful. And then already in these days a shift began where the companies started to separate testing teams from pure development teams, and they started to separate the responsibility between testing and development, and that was in these days very successful. The quality of the software tested by independent software testing teams increased a lot. But of course, as you said, the trend to working in following an agile model where a team as a whole is responsible for the software and for the results and for the quality of the software, again changed the approach on testing. So today, of course, the agile way of doing software development is dominant, and as a consequence, of course, testing is an integrated part of software development, and also there's no so much different between working as a tester and working as a developer, because in many cases which are overlapping or changing from day to day, and you're extremely collaborating with your colleagues and your development teams, either on doing testing or doing development centered work.
Okay, well, that's an interesting thing when you look now into the agile world, where we have also now developers more and more testing again, right? So is that a trend going back to where we started, or do you think there is, with all the knowledge over the last 20 years, more changes in there?
Yes, so the task is for both sides. So independent whether you are working as a professional tester or professional developer, of course, everybody has his main job, the job where he or she is focused on. But everybody in an agile team shall have some insight into the other topics. So everybody who is working as a programmer or as a software architect or a scrum master or a product owner shall have some knowledge, at least some basic knowledge about testing principles, and also everybody who is working as a testing professional, independent on for which kind of systems, on which kind of testing level, shall have some knowledge and insight into software development, means into how programmers work, how programming is to be done, and what it means to develop a software product.
So Tilo, let's have a look at your career, because that's also an interesting factor for our listeners. You started in the field of testing, and when you now look back over the last 20-25 years where you're working in this field, what helped you to be so successful in this area?
That's an interesting question. Of course, to answer it from my own personal perspective is quite difficult. Maybe you shall ask my colleagues and our customers on that. But as you are asking, I try to answer from my personal perspective. So first, I think as we founded, me and my partners in 1992 with Imbus company, we focused on the right topic, of course. So software testing has been since these days a very important topic.
So your company
within the IT
celebrated 30
industry.
years this year, right? ISTQB 20 years.
30 years this
nice,
year,
nice
yes,
event
right.
here. Cool. Yeah, so you focused on the right topic, you said, right?
I believe so. Software testing, of course, gets more and more important over all these years. And that is, of course, a outcome from the general development within the IT-driven world. So everything is more and more depending on software, and then of course it's clear that software testing is important, and that's the secret behind the success of Imbus and all other software quality-related companies and freelancers and people out there.
And well, Imbus became now a quite big company over the last 30 years, with a lot of different working in a lot of different places. So I think you're in Tunisia as well, close to here from Morocco. You are in I think Macedonia, right? Or which countries are
yes
there?
we have
huge
about
amount of countries. And how do you see the work together? Do you see then that the people are coming closer together also from the knowledge, or how do you see that?
Yes, as you say, Imbus has spread over the world during the last 20-30 years. We are at the moment about 400 people around the world, and from Europe to China and Canada and Northern Africa. We have a subsidiary also in Tunisia and in Kosovo. And well, of course, everybody has learned the same principles that was driven by ISTQB, of course. So the way we are working together is, of course, supported by the common knowledge and a common understanding on what does it mean to test software, what are the foundation knowledge, what are the methodologies to apply. That is, of course, a good common understanding which helps us.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it's something like a language you are all speaking then, right, in the field of testing.
Yeah, exactly.
So we also have a huge track here on this event about women in testing. So when you look at this topic, what did change over the last 20 years in that area?
Yes, that is an interesting question, but I believe, especially in the IT industry, where there's no so much difference like in perhaps other more traditional industries between how women work and men and about the career possibilities of both, and especially in software testing. I believe that the amount of women working in software testing from early days, beginning from early days, was quite higher than in IT in the average. So it's for us at Imbus and other companies in the software testing area, not unusual that women also have management responsibility from team lead to business unit lead, or also in top management. So I think the software testing domain is leading here.
That's very good to hear. I also interviewed in the women in testing section, and I think that's also what you hear quite a lot, that testing seems to be a nice workplace, in fact, where you have quite a lot of equality. And I think that's very, very good news in that. But Tilo, I was at your conference at the QS Days in Frankfurt, and there you presented a study that testing techniques are less and less used. Can you tell a little bit more about that? Will testing techniques disappear?
You probably are mentioning and quoting a survey undertaken by the German Testing Board, right?
I think so, yes.
Yes. So personally, I don't believe that in general it's true that testing techniques are less used today than before. So my view here is that of course today the software development is taking place on a much larger scale than in the past, and in countless fields of application, and extremely with extremely fast innovation cycles, and so of course there are many projects out there that invest little in quality and testing, or where simply the know-how about testing is lacking. But if you are looking on projects which are, well, let's say, developing serious software products, you will see that these teams are really using the relevant and applying the relevant testing techniques on a very extensive and professional level, and also successfully. So such teams are really just doing what ISTQB syllabi are teaching, and that's working. So that's my point of view and my experience, also within our customer base, of course.
That's good to hear. So it's not disappearing on the test technique side. Well, when you look now at the younger generation, do you have any advice to them, what they should look at, what they should learn to have a successful career in the testing area?
Good question. So in my opinion, software testing will continue to be a growth industry with generally very good career opportunities. I'm sure that is the case, and what I expect from new people entering this domain is that first they shall have a sound knowledge about the general computer science knowledge. In maybe somebody who is likes to start a career in testing should also have collected some experience in software programming, software developing. It's always a good thing to know how the colleagues in your team are working and what they are doing, not only from outside, but as having applied all these techniques and programming skills on yourself. And besides all this technical knowledge and experience, I think it's also very, very important to be interested in the IT stuff, to be interested in how systems work, in how, and also to be critical, to think about how systems might not work as expected, and to be able to work as a good team worker together with your colleagues and customers, because the things which we have to test are so complex and change so fast that it's not possible to do all these testing tasks on your own alone. So you have to be able to collaborate. You have to be able to ask your customers what they expect from their systems, and then to transform that into good test cases. And that means you have to communicate a lot with all your people around you.
So Tilo, you said you must be interested. So you are a very interested person then, as a leader of such a big company. When you look now in the future, what do you think will software testing look like in 20 years?
In 20 years, okay, that's very far away, and nobody can really.
Well, we have 20 years. We can also ask 30 years for Imbus, but 20 years for ISTQB are enough, I think.
But what I'm sure of is that, of course, the testing of artificial intelligence-based systems will be becoming more and more important. Not in 20 years, but from tomorrow on. So that's what's currently starting, and what currently we at Imbus are already preparing us for. We are running some pilot projects and research projects about how to practically apply software testing on artificial intelligence-based systems. So for example, we are working on testing methods to check whether a machine learning system really has learned what the customer is expecting, or we are working on techniques to reduce the amount of combinations to test, for example, for testing, to help testing autonomous vehicles, to help to make autonomous driving work. And that's just the beginning. So imagine that in 20 years you will be able to meet in your daily life walking robots out there in your neighborhood, and be aware that all these machines who are working with you on the streets maybe shall act in a safe manner and don't hurt you, and all these things must be developed and such way must be tested, and I think that is the future of testing, to make the world safe, and all these things, this intelligent things safe enough to be able to let them walk around out there.
So your prediction is that we will have a lot of robots in 20 years and we will all have autonomous driving, right?
Yeah, that depends. Indeed, that depends on whether the testers will be able to do a good job here. Because if I think it would not be so difficult to ship unsafe systems. But the challenge is to make these systems safe, and that is the challenge the testers have, because that is their job.
So software testing will be the very key factor of the future, even more important than today, right?
I believe.
So, and what will ISTQB look like in 20 years? What do you think?
Well, I think as in such a world where everything is depending on software-based systems, ISTQB will, of course, be a very, very important organization, because the world will need somebody who is taking care about knowledge and education in this area. And so, to put it in one sentence, I think ISTQB would be one of the largest IT associations in the world, which is helping to make the IT systems functioning and working safe.
Well, I think that's a wonderful sentence at the end of our interview, Tilo. Thank you so much. Congratulations to 30 years of Imbus. Congratulations to 20 years ISTQB, our first ISTQB president. Thank you, Tilo.
Yes, thank you, Werner. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.